Hi everyone, and welcome to the overview of the pyramid model to support social and emotional competence. This is the Wisconsin Early Childhood Association, and this is a preview of the pyramid model 24-hour training series, just to give you an idea of what to expect and whether your program is ready to make the commitment to that full training series. There is a video that it would be best if you watched that before watching this webinar. The video link is above the webinar link on the webpage, on the WICA webpage, and it says right next to it, Step 1, watch this 27-minute video. So please watch that and then join us for this webinar. Okay, so we are going to begin. Okay, so here is sort of our agenda for this webinar. We are going to, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about me as the trainer. Then we are going to talk about concepts, strategies, and what research tells us about social and emotional development in children and why it's very important that we pay attention to that. We are going to talk about the training content and about Youngstar points that can be earned by completing this training. And then at the end, I will talk about next steps and how to complete the evaluation. My name is Claire Lind, and I have been a WICA employee for about 10 years. I began as a Teach Scholarship counselor, and now I am a professional development counselor and also do several trainings. And I do the pyramid model training because I believe that social and emotional development is the most important aspect of child development, and that if we spend the majority of our time and energy concentrating on children's social and emotional development and how to support that, that we will come as close as possible to cutting down and maybe eliminating many challenging behaviors. So it's really important to me as a training topic, and I've seen it in action. I taught for 6 years with 3 to 5-year-olds. And I've seen what happens within an environment, within a classroom or a program, when the strategies of the pyramid model training are implemented. So I'm excited to give you a little snapshot of what we will be talking about during the 24-hour full training. All right, so these are the objectives. By the end of this session, you will be able to articulate the importance of social emotional competence in young children. You will be able to identify why relationships are key to achieving social and emotional developmental milestones. You'll understand how this framework relates to all early care and education settings. Analyze the need for increasing positive outcomes related to social and emotional development, and see how intentional strategies can change behavior. So what we're going to talk about today is why professional development in social and emotional competence is important to not only children and families, but also to teachers and caregivers. It's really important that teachers and caregivers feel that we are competent in the way that we discuss social and emotional concepts with children and families. And we also are going to talk about the efforts to support this type of professional development in the state of Wisconsin. And then finally, how you can get involved in this type of high-quality professional development in order to promote social and emotional competence. Okay, so social and emotional competence refers to the developing capacity of a child from birth through age 5 to form close and secure adult and peer relationships, experience, regulate, and express emotions in socially and culturally appropriate ways, and to explore their environment and learn. So we know that social and emotional competence does not end at age 5, that we continue to develop this through adulthood. And so as we help children develop this competence, we need to reflect on our own strengths and shortcomings, and also about what happens when our culture, community, and family differ from the families that we work with. Because this happens sometimes, and it can cause some strain within ourselves to think about, okay, what is best for this child in relation to their own family culture, and how can I best match that to meet the needs of this child and their family, and also meet the needs of my entire classroom as a whole. Okay, so how can we empower children to have a great day? So what is a great day? What does it look like? We want to be able to give children what they need before they demand it with challenging behavior, right? Children behave in ways that are hard for us, are challenging for us, are challenging for them because they don't have what they need. And so as caregivers, it is our responsibility to figure out, what does this child need and how can I best help him or her meet those needs in order to have a successful day? And that a successful day can be building relationships, it can be building friendships with a peer, it can be interactions between infants, it can look like lots of different things, and you all may define it in different ways. But we do need to figure out, what does each individual child need in order to be empowered and have a great day. Okay, so how do you know when an infant or toddler has social emotional competence? What does that look like? Just think about that for a minute. We've seen infants and toddlers who are regulated. You know, they feel okay inside their bodies. They're able to communicate when they are under some kind of stress, and they rely on a nurturing interaction with a caregiver in order to help them meet whatever need they have, whether it's hunger, whether they need a new diaper, whether they need to be picked up and moved around. So we know that when we develop strong relationships with infants, we learn what each of their cues means and how to help them better meet the needs that aren't being met at the time. And then how do we know when a preschool age child has social and emotional competence? You know, we see kids working together, solving their problems with words instead of with actions. We see them negotiating. We see them able to enter a play scheme in a way that is okay with the other group of kids. We see them able to engage in a project and feel some confidence in that. So, you know, we all can identify different things within our own programs that answer these questions, but I'd like you to think a little bit about that. Think about some of the children in your programs and how you know when they have social emotional competence. Okay, so here is an interaction between an infant and an adult, whether it's a father or a caregiver or an uncle, we don't know, but we can see that this adult is working really hard to read this child's cues and can see that this child is engaged, is smiling, is enjoying this interaction. And so, you know, what a child, how they behave or what their cues are help us understand what we can do to help them more enjoy the interaction. So we see face-to-face interaction here. We see smiling, eye contact. They might be making noises back and forth with each other. And so that's how we know that an interaction is a positive one for an infant. And then here's a toddler, and you know, here's more eye contact, smiling, closeness. They obviously know each other pretty well. This child trusts this adult. So, you know, these are just photographs showing some positive interactions. And then, you know, think of some of the qualities of the interactions that help you to understand that children are growing in their social and emotional competence. So what are these adults doing to support children's developing social emotional competence? Because really we're modeling for children all the time in our programs what social and emotional competence looks like, right? So these two adults are modeling for these infants, these babies, about what is a healthy social and emotional interaction look like. They're smiling, everyone's smiling. They were sure to put these babies face to face so they could see each other, so that they could reciprocate emotions and facial gestures and hand gestures. And there's a lot of eye contact and engagement. Okay, so we know that there are consequences of unmet social and emotional needs. We see these in our programs. And, we need to think of that child that isn't getting the types of interactions and opportunities that we just described and saw in the photographs. So a child who doesn't have the opportunities to build relationships, who doesn't have a safe environment to explore in, or who isn't receiving feedback from adults when they express emotions. So we see challenging behaviors, right? And we also see a high level of stress for both children and caregivers. And we see turnover in staff because it's really hard to be in an environment where there are a lot of challenges happening and where we're not really sure what to do next. And so here are some research findings that demonstrate that unmet social and emotional needs in childhood affect a child as they enter school and move toward adulthood. And this is from a study called From Neurons to Neighborhoods, the Science of Early Childhood Development. And then another study called Emotional Connections, How Relationships Guide Early Learning. Okay, so we know that there's a greater risk of poor mental health and physical health. So we know that kids who do not have rich interactions where they're supported by an adult have a harder time making connections neurologically, and then also making connections with their body and participating in events. We know that kids also have difficulty forming relationships with peers and adults. And so think of a child you may know who has a hard time interacting with their peers. And because of that, they may not be always invited to join their peers. And that can lead to, lower self-esteem and a harder time for a child to take risks in order to develop relationships with other peers and adults. And so when children kind of feel shut down and like they don't belong, then there can be increased involvement with the juvenile justice system as well. And then, of course, struggles in all school settings. So we know that what happens in birth through 5 impacts kids kindergarten and beyond. Right? And so it's really important for us at the birth to 5 level to really work hard to help children have their social and emotional needs met. Okay, and more research was done about what happens when with unmet social and emotional needs. So, children are expelled for challenging behaviors, and if they're expelled in preschool, they're more likely to be expelled later in their K-12 career. And, expelling a child makes those of us who work with children, the workforce, feel ill-equipped to handle challenging behavior, so it lowers our confidence in working with children. And then children lose that connection, that relationship that's already been built. And we know that building relationships is a key aspect of healthy child development. And so when we look at some of these other facts here, child and family behavior were among the leading causes of expulsion in both group and family child care settings. So families need some professional development, right? We call it that for ourselves, but they need to also know, what can I do at home to support my child's social and emotional development? And then again, the confidence piece. 1 in 5 providers reported that they had little or no confidence in their ability to deal with challenging behaviors. So we know that addressing children's social and emotional development is key to this work, and that it is looking more closely into this and developing strategies impacts children, families, and ourselves as child care providers. Okay, so this is what research tells us, that relationships are foundational to social and emotional development. So we know that infants and toddlers depend heavily on adults to help them experience, regulate, and express emotions. And we also know that attachment is a pattern of interactions. So through close, nurturing interpersonal relationships with parents and other caregivers, children learn what people expect of them and what they can expect of other people. And then through interactions, children learn strategies for responding to their environment. So we need to give children the opportunity to practice social interactions so that they can develop those skills, because those skills don't come naturally to many people, to many children, to many of us. And then we know that relationships develop in the context of family and the caregiving environment as well. And so the caregiver and family need to communicate and inform the other about what's happening with the child and how to better support as they move between these two environments. Okay, research also tells us that children are actively learning and communicating from birth. So the drive to explore and master one's environment is inborn in humans. So children want to be able to explore. They want to be able to seek out interesting things in their environment, and obviously do that in a safe environment as well. So we know that the quality of the environment greatly impacts a child's ability to explore it. And there's rating scales for this, there's accreditation requirements that talk about environment. And so we know that if we intentionally set up the environment in a way that best supports children's explorations and learning, then we know that they're going to get those needs met from early on. It's also, children's active participation in their own learning and development is also an important aspect of their mental health. So we know that free play or choice time, or whatever we call it when children are, usually 2 and over in our programs, is so important because they're able to negotiate, they're able to explore, they're able to figure things out through social interactions that they can create themselves, and then it's important to have a skilled adult there to support that. Okay, another thing that research tells us is that children's development is influenced by multiple factors. So again, the context of family and community is where infants and toddlers learn to share and communicate their feelings. They develop a sense of themselves as competent, effective, and valued individuals. And so we know that there are many factors that influence a child's ability to interact in an environment in a successful way. And so we need to, as adults, caregivers and parents, we need to work with families and be sure that we are meeting children's needs. Okay, and finally, we can make a difference. So we know that when we form strong relationships, provide environments that encourage children to safely explore and learn, interact with children in those environments in ways that support their learning, provide strategies for building relationships with peers and adults, and both encourage and respond to children's communication of their needs and emotions, that we are providing children with skills and strategies for social emotional competence. The work that we do with infants and toddlers affects children's success as they grow. Okay, so again, what we do from birth to 5 strongly impacts school success. So children who have been supported and developed social and emotional competence have a higher level of confidence in school. They have the capacity to develop good relationships with peers and adults. They have the ability to concentrate and persist on challenging tasks versus giving up as soon as one thing goes wrong. So if they build that confidence, they're able to keep trying until they succeed. They have the ability to effectively communicate emotions and also to read emotions in other people, which we know is the building block of empathy. They have the ability to listen to instructions and to be attentive. So if their needs have been met from birth on, as far as what they need physically to be comfortable and happy and healthy in a learning environment, what they need emotionally, then they do have the ability to sit and listen and take in information because they've had all those underlying foundational needs met. And then finally, they have the ability to solve social problems. And I'm sure many of us know children and maybe adults who have a hard time solving problems in their lives. And we know that people aren't born with those skills. We need to be taught how to do that. So it's really important that we focus on social and emotional development. Okay, so we know that society is changing and the needs of young children are not being addressed. The interactions among early childhood science, policy, and practice are problematic and demand dramatic rethinking. Okay, so again, research tells us that children's social and emotional competence is key to their overall development. And we know that children and families are facing stress every day. We know that caregivers and programs are struggling to meet children's needs every day, and that there are policies that are putting pressure on early childhood programs to focus on the academics. But we know that that's a disconnect because we know that in order for children to be successful with academics, they need to have their social and emotional needs met. So we've been rethinking how can we do this in a better way. So this is the graphic, the picture of the pyramid model to support social emotional competence. And if you come to the training series, you are going to see this graphic at every single session, and we talk through it in detail. But for today, I'm just going to talk about the very bottom of the pyramid, which is the effective workforce. So we know how pyramids work, that if you start at the top, so if we flip this upside down and started with intensive interventions, it would tip over, right? So we need to start at the very foundation. And the very foundation of social and emotional competence is an effective workforce. So what does effective workforce mean? And to define that, you could think about what kind of program policies would support the implementation of this model. And so what kind of program policies at your workplace, at your program, would help you feel more effective to then move up the pyramid and talk about relationships and environments and targeted supports and finally intensive intervention. So we know that we need ongoing professional development, that is just not a one-hit deal. We know that we need team planning time in order to be sure that we're all on the same page and that we're thinking about children as individuals and you know what we can do in our program in order to support all children. We know that family partnerships and conferences are very important. And also, you know, we want everyone to know and understand the philosophy and vision of the program. So it's important to sit down as a program and think about what is our vision and how are we going to see that that vision or philosophy comes to fruition. So the pyramid model has several guiding principles and values, and the first one is that supporting young children's social and emotional development prevents challenging behaviors. And to me, this is the most important aspect, the most important philosophical point of the pyramid model training is that when children are experiencing challenges, when they're behaving in ways that are challenging to themselves, to their peers, to their caregivers, they are communicating an unmet need. They need something and they aren't getting it, and they're not sure how to verbalize what they need, and so they're behaving in a certain way because they're not sure what else to do. And so it's our job as caregivers to figure out what does that challenging behavior communicate to me. That's the first thing, and we do that by building relationships. And then what can I do to get that child's need met in a way that prevents this challenging behavior to happen? So can I teach him how to ask for it? Can I set up the environment in a different way that will prevent this problem from even happening, whatever this problem is? So to me, this is the most important guiding principle of the pyramid model, is that it's our job to figure out ways to prevent challenging behaviors from even happening. Then Another guiding principle is that we need to individualize interventions to respond to a child and family's unique needs and strengths. So there are there are 8 sections of this training, and the first 6 really talk about relationship building, the environment, how important it is to set it up in a way that works for children, and what is social and emotional development, how can we explore that through reading books, through activity planning, through talking one-on-one with a child, talking through problems when they happen. And so when you implement all those things that you learn in the first several sessions, you'll find that your challenging behaviors will go down in your program. But even with setting up everything in a way that helps children have the best day, have a happy day, there's still going to be behaviors that fall outside of that. And then there are a couple sessions about, okay, you have a child or 2 that still has challenging behaviors. What things can you do just for them to help prevent them, help prevent the behaviors from occurring? And then even after that, you may still have 1 or 2 children that need even more support. And that's when the individualized interventions piece comes in. And you'll get a lot of information in the last session about how to do observations, about how to include other professionals in your community, things like that. And then the third guiding principle is that the pyramid model promotes skill building with enough intensity to affect change. So if you learn a few strategies and do them once in a while, it's really not going to change your program and change the challenging behaviors within your program. You really need to build skills and promote strategies consistently across the board that will lead to change in your program. And so the pyramid model will show you how to do that. Okay, more guiding principles. We need to implement these strategies in the context of naturally occurring routines and environments. So if we teach kids something new about making friends that is not in the context of the peers in their classroom or in other parts of the day, if we don't embed that in other parts of our schedule, then it's really not going to be as meaningful to a child. But if we take our schedule for the day and look for opportunities within each piece of it, so snack time, bathrooming time, outside time, all those chunks of the day that already occur for a child, if we look at those and figure out ways to embed social and emotional activities and talks within that, we're going to have a lot more success. And then ensuring fidelity of use through a systematic change process. So as we talk more about registering for the training and what that looks like, you're going to see that we really talk about involving several staff members in a program, if you're a group program, because really the most effective way to have change in a program is to have it be program-wide, to have all the teachers in all the classrooms using the same strategies so that when children move between classrooms, they are hearing the same things, doing the same things, so that they know what to expect. We want administrators to go through the training so that they know how to support their staff in implementing these new strategies. It's really important. And then finally, a guiding principle is that we will modify strategies to meet the cultural and linguistic diversity of families and children. And so, there's many diverse settings in which children receive care, and we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all children and all families. Okay, so there's a website here. It's the Collaborating Partners website, and there's a tab for social and emotional competence. And I think it's called Pyramid Model, Social and Emotional Competence. And so if you'd like a little bit more information about the pyramid model as it's been adapted to Wisconsin, please visit this website. But I'll just talk a little bit about, what has been happening in Wisconsin. So So the pyramid model, and some of you may have heard it referred to as SEFL, which stands for Social and Emotional Foundations for Early Learning. This began at Vanderbilt University and then was adapted in Wisconsin as a 8-part, 3 hours each training model. And so there's been 4 different phases of this, the pyramid model implementation in Wisconsin. So phase 1 was about training on this topic with implementation in just a couple demonstration and pilot sites. So we wanted to make sure that we could do this at a couple sites and see how it went. And so that was the beginning, was training a couple sites, so teachers within a couple sites, about how this would work. What does social emotional development look like? And then phase 2 was providing ongoing training and limited program-wide implementation outside of the demonstration and pilot sites. So really just a couple more programs getting involved in it, because it really is a big undertaking to have full program-wide implementation. And then phase 3 was ongoing training again and greater access to supports for program-wide implementations. There have been more supports made available for follow-up visits to implement the strategies learned. And then phase 4 is ongoing training and sufficient supports in place for all programs that are ready for program-wide implementation. And so that is the vision, and this vision depends on the level of funding and commitment from the state government and from private foundations and other resources that provide positive outcomes for children. So this is kind of how it's going in Wisconsin. Those are the phases. So there's several agencies that conduct pyramid model trainings, local CCR&Rs, some of them do it, WICA does it, and so there's many places where you can find these trainings statewide. And we really wanted a broad implementation, so including family child care, center-based child care, Head Start, early childhood education in public schools, 4K, and then also part-day and full-day programs. And then in Wisconsin, it was connected to earning Young Star points, which we'll talk about in a little while. Okay, so pyramid model training in Wisconsin, what does it look like? As I said earlier, it is 8 training sessions, and each session is 3 hours in length, so it's a total of 24 hours. It's a big commitment. And it's really important to attend every session because they build upon each other. And then each of the 8 sessions has a theme, and it's identified by a question from a child's point of view. So here's a list of the 8 themes. So the first session is called, How Will I Know That You Care About Me? And this is all about how do we build relationships with children. This is a fundamental aspect of positive child outcomes, building relationships. So that is session 1. The second session, the question is, how do I know what to do? So we're going to talk about what are rules and expectations that are appropriate for different age groups, for different types of programs. How can we make them part of the day? How can we make them visible so children feel like they know what's coming, they know what to expect? All right, and then the third session is called, What are the messages I will get from my environment? And so it's all about setting up an environment so that a child can experience success and get their needs met. And that session includes many pictures, many photographs within the PowerPoint showing different ways to set up environments. And I also want to say that every session includes either photographs or videos. Most include both, so that participants can see something. You know, we'll talk about a topic and then you can see it in action. We'll watch videos of children who are having some challenges, and we'll try to use some of the strategies we've learned to figure out how to dissect that, and then again break it down into what does this child need and how do I help them communicate that in a different way and also get their needs met. Session 4 is called How Will I Know When to Do It? So remember, Session 2 is How Do I Know What to Do? Session 4 is, well, how am I going to know when to do it? So we're going to talk about the importance of schedules and what a schedule can look like in a program and what are good schedules for different developmental levels. And then transitions. We know that transitions are hard for kids. They don't want to be hurried and they don't want to wait. So really fun activities to do during transitions to make them go more smoothly for everybody. Session 5 is called What Am I Feeling? And so this is all about emotional literacy. So learning what are emotions, how can I teach a child to identify their emotions, that emotions are okay, but how can a child advocate for what they need in order to feel better? And so there's many different strategies that are talked about and activities to help children learn how to identify their own feelings as well as the feelings of others. Session 6 is called Will I Have a Friend? And it's all about teaching friendship skills. So some kids have had many pro-social friendship skills modeled to them, either by caregivers, family members, people, anyone around them. They've seen how to do that. And some children haven't had any of that modeling. And so we need to be very intentional about how we're teaching friendship skills to children. Session 7 is called How Will You Help Me Manage My Feelings? And it's about anger management and problem solving. So a child who's very angry, who's having what we may call a meltdown, we want to figure out the cues before the anger and meltdown occur so that we can help a child navigate that situation in a way that's pro-social, that takes care of their feelings, and that also takes care of the feelings of the peers around them. And then we also in that session talk about how do we problem solve with others. So what are some concrete ways that we can help kids through a problem solving session with their peers, and how can we support them to learn how to do that? Session 8, the last session, is called How Will My Needs Be Met? And this is a session in which we watch a lot of videos of children, actual children who have had behavior intervention plans created for them and implemented. And then there's a lot of supporting activities and documents and practice within the session so that participants can learn how to do this for children who still need some more help with managing feelings and with their own social competence. All right, and then in each session, it's going to include the training. So you're going to learn new concepts, skills, and strategies that you can use right away in your program the next day. We are going to do networking with peers. So there'll be a group, and we're going to do activities with each other in groups, with partners, just to help learn the skills and have interaction. There are going to be some take and make options. So there will be different examples within the slides that you see of strategies, and then you will be given information on where to find the materials to print off in order to make your own for your own program. And most of the materials are completely free on the Vanderbilt Cephal website. So you will be shown those, you'll get practice with them, and then when you go back home or to your program, you'll have the opportunity to make your own and try them out in your program. We're going to have opportunities for reflection within each session. So thinking about what are my feelings about this? What do I bring to this interaction with this child or to this topic? And then you'll have the opportunity to choose one or two new skills or strategies at the end of each session that you are going to try out in your program the next week or two. And then you'll come back and report to the group what you did. Did it work? If it didn't work, we can talk through it, but it's really a nice way to hear about how to implement these skills and make a change in your program. Okay, so if you'd like to learn about upcoming training dates for the pyramid model, please go to the wisconsinearlychildhood.org/training website, and you'll be able to see the dates that are coming up. And how do I get involved in this training? Well, first you want to determine your commitment to all 8 training sessions. Again, they build upon each other, so it's very important to attend all of them. Then you'll want to build a team to attend the training series. So if you're a family child care provider, if you have a colleague who also provides child care who you might want to attend with, that's great. If you do not have someone to pair up with, do not worry. We will find you someone to pair up with during the sessions in order to practice skills and strategies. If you're in a group child care program, it is important to have a team. And in the next few slides, we'll talk more about what that team might look like. In order to register for the series, you will fill out an application. The link is right on the web page where you found this webinar. And you can fax it to the number you see here. Well, I guess you don't see it here. The number you see on the website, it's 414-278-9336, and you can find this right on the Contact Us tab of the WICA website. You also are able to mail it in, and our address, the Milwaukee office address, is on the website. If you have questions, your contact person is Carrie Holden, and you see her phone number there and her email. So feel free to contact her with questions. But if you're ready to register, fill out the application on the page. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about building a team. So, attending a workshop or this series is not enough to change your practice. Real positive change happens in your program when you reflect on learning over time. So when you get to learn strategies and then practice them and discuss the results with your colleagues, with the mentors, it has a meaningful and lasting impact. And so we know that change occurs in the most responsible, supportive, and lasting way when teams are motivated, accountable, and support each other in making change. So a team consists of a lead and co-teacher from any of the classrooms, so infant, toddler, or preschool room, and then also the center director or leader is required also to participate in the 8-part series with the team, with the teacher team. Again, if you're a family child care provider, we'll pair you up. Why do so many people need to be involved? For the reasons that we just stated, that we know that change occurs best when it is program-wide and when everyone is on the same page and are able to support each other. And again, family child care providers, if you have a colleague you want to sign up with, great. If not, we will pair you up, and it's for the same reason. We want this pyramid model training to not just be about changing child behavior, it's about changing our own responses and practices. And that happens best when we have supports in place. So you're going to be able to support each other. Okay, so this is who we affectionately refer to as the Crabby Lady. And if you attend the training series, she's in many of the sessions, and her job is to sort of play devil's advocate. So she says, why should I do all of this work? Well, we know that we want to give children what they need before they demand it, right? Because when they demand it is when some of the challenges arise. And so we want to support kids in their social and emotional competence so that we can build more confidence in the children and in the teachers so that we're all happier, that our classrooms run more smoothly, that our programs run more smoothly. We want to have more well-adjusted children in our program who are getting their needs met. So a team approach includes engaging with supportive families, with a more productive work environment. We know that if we feel like we're on a team and that we have support, there's going to be lower provider turnover, there's going to be lower family turnover, and we're going to have happier and healthier children. So what do you need to do? If you decide that you are going to attend this training, you need to come to all the sessions and actively participate. And it's an engaging series. It's an engaging training. There's Like I said, there's videos, there's photographs, there's activities to do with each other, there's reflection time. So we want you to participate so you get the most out of it. Then we want you to practice your skills and strategies. So go back to your program and practice and see how it goes. You'll want to communicate with your team members in between the training so that you can share your successes and also your challenges and maybe get some feedback from them. You can work on assignments with your team members because there will be an assignment at the end of most sessions and that you bring back the next session completed, and so you can work on them together. And then by doing all of these things, you can help move the implementation of the pyramid model skills and strategies forward. And then the way that the pyramid model works with Youngstar is that programs can earn up to 2 points in the Child Health and Wellness Youngstar category by committing a team of staff to grow their competence in social and emotional development. And so, you know, efforts related to pyramid model can improve quality in the other domains as well. And the registry will verify your training points. So they'll verify your training in order for you to get the points. Here are some resources if you want to check out these websites just to sort of get a sneak peek of some of the resources that will be shared during the 8-part training series. I recommend that you check these out. The book Nooks are really interesting. They're really great. They're really easy to use and they're free. If you go to this website, you can print off a book Nook. It's about reading in a particular children's book and then how to talk about it with children, how to bring out the social emotional elements in a way that's developmentally appropriate, and then different activities that you can do in order to help children more concretely understand these new skills that they might be learning while reading this book, while learning about this book. And then there's also information on these sites about the parent modules. So, you know, there's some professional development that can occur with families. And then if you want to see some of the videos that will be viewed during the series, there's a video link as well. Okay, so next steps again, register as a group or individual, and individuals will be paired up. And then programs are selected on a first come, first served basis. So if you're interested, please sign up once you have your team put together. And then this is where you can find any training opportunities that Wisconsin Early Childhood Association offers. And then it also has the online registration form for the pyramid model. And again, here is who you contact, Carrie Holden, if you have any questions. And so, completion of a training evaluation is required if you wish to receive registry credit for visiting this preview. Type the link exactly as you see it into your browser.